Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Book Block, the series where I bring my fantasy novel to life in Minecraft, one block at a time. In the last episode, we worked on the farming district back there. You can see it's really starting to fill out the village here. In today's episode, we're going to work more in the center of the village. We're going to work on the Watchtower. So the tower that will signal any danger coming towards the village, can signal to where the main city, so they can send soldiers or whatnot. Just a way of keeping themselves safe and keeping an eye out for anything on the outskirts of the area within the mountain range itself. Since there'll be a forest over here, I'm thinking of having it being kind of monster infested. Just another way of keeping the people from up in the mountains from just coming down this way and having to traverse all the way around. So let's get into designing and building the tower. Alright, so here we are just in a little test world just for building this up. So I wanted to show you a little technique I found for making the spiral staircase. So what you want to do is you want to add a nice line here, somewhat from the edge to around the center of your circle. So if you had a circle going around this would be kind of the edge and this would be your center. You want to then go axiom and then select your block here, drop down to the modify. You want to use revolve and then a higher angle. So let's go over that. You want to add a translation to the total Y. So I'm adding 30 because that's how tall I want it to be. And then if you see here, this number kind of pans out a little. So you kind of want it to, in the circle of your tower, in my case. So you can see it's on the edge over here when it's at 5.5. So then I just click, and it creates your spiral staircase. You can adjust for where you want it to end or how tall you want it to be, the more angles. So if I go back and then I do only 360, you can see it's a lot thinner. It doesn't spiral as much. So you kind of want to play around with all these settings, pick out the one that you think will be the best. So if I go like up to 2000 and then let's go 555, you can see it's a lot more floors. They're a lot shorter. So you kind of play around. You want to balance between the height and then how many spirals you want in your tower. So now let's hop over and watch the time lapse of me building the tower itself. Alright, now that we have the tower shape decided on, with the main point, little curve at the bottom, and a nice little pointed peak with area for the kind of signal fire to go, we can go and replace some blocks for the texturing and color. So I'm going to come in here and turn off the shaders so I can actually see using a full bright. And I'm going to remove this center pillar. So just select and delete. And instead of that, I'm going to use a spruce log all the way up. So let's go to that. Now, so for these stairs here, instead of using this red terracotta, I'm going to go for the dark oak slabs, or dark oak planks. But I'm going to go in first and use these dark oak slabs to make it a kind of a gentle slope instead of having to jump up every step. So to go along, you can first kind of just place them quickly in, and then later we'll go in and work on getting, for like these points here, it's hard to get up these ones. So maybe sticking to the outside, plus I'll have to fill in gaps like this because the spiral isn't perfect. So I can go in and like add walls at certain points when you want to bring it down. For these lower bits, it's harder because it's the inside of the slope, but we can go in and start adding the slabs. Alright, now that's done, we can go in and fix in a couple little points. So my main problem is with near the center here. So there's two possible fixes for this. Either adjusting, so for like ones like this, we can bring out a little further and then that fixes that, so now it's a good slope here. Or we could just remove kind of a 3x3, just one block out from the entire thing, just for a little bit like that. So if I go to the top so I don't damage the roof, I can go around. Let's see where it ends. So there's grass. And there we go. So now up here we can do kind of a fence just to hold it in, maybe have this up a little higher. And that removes any of these full blocks on the center. So we can kind of go around and check to make sure it is a smooth slope all the way down to the bottom. Right, and then we can remove that. So for this one, I'm gonna just adjust that one, bring that back to the original, fill in any holes I created. And now we can go in. So I'll select all of the red terracotta. I'm gonna then replace it with dark oak planks. So now it was a lot easier to see if there was any mistakes based on the slabs before. So now we can go up all the way and then maybe fix in here. And there we go. So we have a path all the way to the top now. Alright, for the next part we have kind of two options. Either we go for the rough of the cobblestone and just the tough, or we go for stone bricks and tough bricks. So I'm gonna do both, see how they kind of look together. So I'm gonna select just these yellow, so for the outside. I'm gonna go to the noise painter, and I've got cobblestone and tough ready. So if I just go paint up like this, don't want it to be the roof yet, but so that's one option. So using very low scale to kind of get a very noisy mix. And then here is the other one. So this the bricks now. So for kind of a more strong built up one. So we'll do that on this side. And the other side we'll do kind of raw bits. So let me know which one you guys think looks better for this kind of watchtower. Once we get it placed over into the village itself, maybe I'll make a decision based on its surroundings, but if you think one or the other looks better, let me know in the comments and I can easily change it back and forth. Alright, so now we have the outer portion of the tower. We can replace these points here with logs. So either here, or maybe I'll go one more in, just so it's not kind of hanging off the edge. So I can remove these here, and just have it go all the way to the roof. And then I'll add in some supports, kind of fill this in so it's not so hollow. So that looks better than when it's on the edge here. This looks a little unsafe, so we'll bring that back in. So we got some supports, maybe need to thicken them up. I'll remove this one over here. Final look. But that looks like it's holding it up nicely. Might need to add in some braces along the top here just to make it like a little accent. So now onto the roof. Alright, so I got four options here. Either the oak and spruce planks or stripped oak and stripped spruce wood. So let's try for this, so similar to how I did down here. So we're gonna grab in. Instead we're gonna do just the one, so I'll select just the oak. So that seems a little light. I'm gonna go out and go back into the shaders. So that's option one. Option two, that looks a little bit better, a bit darker. Blends in nicely with the spruce logs itself. Let's try the strip planks. Alright, that's better than the planks itself. And now let's go into the spruce version. So let's compare these two. So I like the look more of this one because it doesn't have the lines that the planks does. It does have that one like line along the edge. You can kind of see in between the blocks here, kind of like the shadow. But I think this one looks the best, so we'll go with this for the roof of this building. Alright, here inside the tower now. So I've turned off the shaders so we can see. I'll add in some lighting in a little bit. But for the flooring, so these are the kind of the options I'm thinking of. A little bit of a contrast between the dark of the stairs and central pillar, the log, and a little bit lighter to kind of go from the dark towards the lighter of either the rough wall or the more brick wall. So let's go in. So I've masked the blue terracotta I'm using at the bottom. So using the painter, just kind of choose each one. So first one, let's try just the planks. So the problem with planks is it's a very repetitive with lots of the lines in between. So it can kind of get a little bit noisy. Plus I'm already using planks for the kind of stairs. Let's try the stripped. So the nice thing about these ones is it's directional, so you can change the direction depending on how you want it. So that aids it a little bit here. But let's take a look at the third one, which is the beehive. So this one is similar to the planks, where it's got the lines, but they're not as prominent. It's kind of a lot smoother of a texture. So I'm definitely eliminating those. Let's sneak those in. So let's do half of it. So shrink this down. Half like that, and then half like that. All right. So looking at these, this one's a bit of a darker color. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go for the beehive for this one. So let's shrink that and now replace these. So there's the floor for this one. So now let's quickly fly up to the top. And the same for this one. So now this one does have the slight problem of the exposed edge here, but that can be fixed if I just use something like a trapdoor. So let's grab these two. These are the darker types. So we can kind of go for this. It's a little harder for these size, but if I remove these, have it just come up like this for the walls. You can do the same over here. And then perhaps we have a different for this centerpiece, so I'll remove these. And then we can do, for now I'll just use this just as a placeholder. Now I just need to go like this, and then we can attach these. And that hides the side there. Let's compare to the dark oak. I think having the dark oak is very similar, so we'll do that for these ones. And for now, I'll keep that. Maybe look into something that fits a bit better. Maybe we can just replace these corners, so then we have directional. And maybe I just fill in these with the stairs. Maybe corner that off. So it's a 3/4 on that, and then the quarter for the stairs. Kind of keeps it consistent. I could replace these with this, but I think having just a slight bit for the trapdoor doors there would work. Clean this up, change this to a slab. Just for a little bit change, maybe that works a little bit better, so then it's all flat at the top. So that is the flooring done. Alright, now for the lighting. So we're back in the shaders. I turned it to night so it's as dark as possible, so I could fill in any gaps. So what I did is I chose some lanterns. Oh, that's not connecting. There we go. So I lantern and then a chain, and I had it go all the way up, so let's fly up real quick. So I've got this little, I extended the post a little bit, add in these trapdoors, so it's kind of hanging on those. And then for each side I put a chain, and then had it go down to a certain point. I kind of walked up the stairs, and wherever it felt darkest, divided into kind of 4 places. I placed the lantern, and now the whole thing looks somewhat lit up. We don't want it to be too bright because this is kind of medieval fantasy, so we kind of want it to a little dark and grimy because no one's really staying on the stairs. It's just so that they can get up the stairs without tripping or falling. But I think that's a interesting way of kind of lighting it up. Maybe a bit of a waste of a chain, but it adds a little bit more detail for the kind of flat post in the center here. Alright, now on to the main purpose of this watchtower in the first place, is for signaling for the main city far away. So, entrance here, so if I do the mental math, the main city will be somewhere over there. Something like, let's go that block. So if you see it all the way there, so that's our block there. So it needs to be kind of viewed from that distance. So what I'm thinking, I'm going to go in, make kind of like a brazier. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but we can grab it like this. Want to go across, leave these gaps here, replace like that, and we can fill in the sides like this, and then go some netherrack and a flint and steel. Place it in these 4 points and light them up. I could also add one in here for a slightly larger fire. So now if I fly over to that block all the way over here, I guess maybe spyglass. This would be kind of how they would see. So even, maybe I'll go even further back. Oh, that's at a render distance. So with spyglass, they can easily see if it's on or off. So this is a decent sized fire. So I'm going to go in here now with these, and we can kind of bring those up just as it's kind of support. So it's hanging onto this middle bit, but it's also attached to kind of hanging on top from the ceiling. Grab these in here. Check to make sure that this isn't covering it too much. Yep, we can still see the fire there. So let's go in here and make a ceiling. So I think I'm going to go one, at least one, maybe two. Yeah, let's go two above. We'll use these again, so it gives a nice wood top. I'm going to leave this little gap in the middle, so just build on the edges. And then bring it out. So I'm going to use the extrude tool. So let's expand out all the way to the edge. Try and sneak over here. I have to go and fill in the small gaps afterwards, but this is slightly quicker. Alright, so that's from the top here. So let's go fix in the corners. There. Be a couple over here. Oh, there we go. This side. Expand that. And there. And I'm already seeing our first problem is the fire is spreading. So I'm going to remove this inner ring of the cover, and then we can replace it with some of the tuft. So I think maybe I'll bring it down one more. Kind of have a ring going here. Have the slabs in between. And then one up here. And let's jump down here, see how it looks from the bottom. Sneak out. So that looks decent. Might replace these ones as well. Yeah, I think that looks good. Just do a little replace quick. These three, and then over here. So hopefully that's safe from any fire damage. I think it's out of the radius where it won't catch anything else. From down here you can just see the fire. I was afraid you might see too much of the netherrack. You can kind of catch a corner here. But the only time you'll actually see the netherrack is if you're standing up here. Maybe try adding in a campfire instead on these corner bits. Oh, don't want to replace, so I'll remove that. think that. So then it hides the netherrack, adds a bit more fire, and has like that wood. So it's like you're tossing the wood on to keep the flame going. So I think that's the distress beacon done for that bit. Alright, next up is kind of giving some texture to this middle bit, because it looks just very flat and just doesn't look that good. We have a bit of the texture with the different blocks, but I think if we go in with some walls, so I'll just do a single wall for the first one, just all the way down to about there, and then all the way up here. I wish we could have it like this, which we could if I just went down like that. Just remove any of those. The reason why it does the little side bit is because there is a block hidden behind some of these. So if I were to remove this one, you can see all those because it's no longer touching this block. But if I just use the tinker to remove this top one, go down, I can make it a little flatter. Depends on how you want it. I think either way works with this little out bit or flat. So just for sake of ease, I'm gonna just do it with that. So that just adds a bit more texture. You can do it along either sides like this too. So let's do one more. Maybe. Can't really do it here because at the inside you'd have to make a long bit along here. So instead, I'm going to do this one out here. We want to use the tough, not this top one because it would show too much. So let's start on the second one. Too far. So we got a missing piece here, so fill in that. So those are bits that didn't get painted properly, but they were hidden from everything else. As you can see, the stairs hid them. But again, it's the texture. It's not too flat anymore, so we can go around and maybe do it on this side too. So we're gonna place, and there we go. It also gives it more of a round shape. So in Minecraft, it's hard to get that unless you're at super large scales. For smaller scales like this can kind of have it like a little half step. So it's like almost a vertical slab. Alright, after a little bit of playing around, I've decided to go with the brick style. It kind of just makes it more of a sturdy build. So I went around and changed it all to the tough end stone bricks. I also went around and completed adding in the walls, adding in all the smoothing texture on this bottom bit here. I also went up here and added in some at the top here, as well as adding a fence around the edge here. I then went around with these kind of stairs so I can stand up here, look over the edge. For these bits I added, just flattened it out so that you can kind of skirt around here, but this isn't really the area you want to go to, so it's kind of dangerous to fall into the stairs here. I went in and came down here. If we go back inside, I added in slabs on the underside, so it makes it smooth along when you look up as well. I also filled in some of these areas, matched these, so you have stairs here for a bit more smooth here. Alright, so I've gone in here and done a little bit of detailing down kind of the base. So this is what it looked like before, so very sharp areas. I added in a little kind of awning in the front here, so some walls and then a little staircase on front. I also curved this off here, and then kind of just added in little bits of stairs. So this could come up here maybe, or just leave it like that. So just using stairs to kind of smooth out the edge, I added in this little wall pillar here, kind of connect these two bits to here. I can go in and maybe replace some like this, just to get that kind of different texture. And you kind of just play around with it, get until it feels smoother than when it usually is in Minecraft when you're using the full blocks. Alright, here we are back in the village. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this ring here. I've copied it over, so we can go here, I'll bring it down by one. Now we just kind of have to center it. So I want to rotate this. So 90 degrees there. Want the entrance on this side. Don't want to be working, because this is already a kind of heavy area, so we kind of have a curve around to this. Kind of center it on the block here. I can come over to the main city. So the city will be here, so you can kind of, yeah, you can see the thing from here. It's taller than our tavern. So I think we'll place it in. So I can add in little structures on the side here, maybe some huts or like little, kind of like how we have the, the market here, kind of have like some tarps, I guess, yeah, tarps. So if we have some tarps just kind of hanging off, just a little bit more detail. I'll bone meal the edges here, maybe add in a tree or two. This is quite an open space, so I'll have to work on something here. But we can go in, and I'll grab these. So we want to grab our palette. So all these pieces. There we go. So coarse dirt, rooted dirt, and path. And then grab that and shrink that. So we don't want a lot of that. Go down to 3 and bring it up to the front. Now we can head on in. Let's check to make sure everything copied over properly. Alright, everything's looking good up here. A little bit of safety issue, but who really cares about it? It's a little bit of safety. Might want to move this back a little bit. There we go. So we got a little more headroom here. And now we can kind of look over the village here, as well as looking over to the main city when that'll be built as the volcano. Right now can't see the mountains because they're not quite loaded, and I've got a shorter render distance right now. But I think that's it for this build. Alright, so that's it for this episode. It's gone a little longer than I planned. I had planned to add a little bit more, but seeing as how long this video has gotten, I think I'll just cut it off with just the tower for today. So if you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos coming soon. Until next time.